Evan Swenson. I'm an author and a book publisher. I'm also a member of Author Masterminds, sponsors of Readers and Writers Book Club. Welcome to Readers and Writers Book Club. This is the worldwide online book publisher meeting of I'm also a member of Author Masterminds, becoming sponsors of Readers and Writers Book Club. Readers of good books. Welcome to Readers and Writers Book Club. Today's is the worldwide online book publisher mastermind. I'm also a member of Author Masterminds, becoming sponsors of Readers and Writers Book Club. I hope you'll find every reader is a friend and every author is approachable. Once again, welcome to Readers and Writers Book Club. Of course, we'll be conversing about books, authors, writing, and the magic and miracle of reading. And we'll have some fun as we award Readers and Writers Book Club branded door prizes available to all book club members. Okay, let's meet today's co-hosts. Okay, let's meet. I just had to let that music run just a little bit. We will meet today's co-host and of course also our honored guest. Today we have co-hosts Marianne Paul, America's Lady of Supernatural Thrillers, and Valerie Winans. Valerie is let's see, sometimes she goes as dog's best friend, but today I think here she's a writer for readers of all ages. Is
perfect.
That close?
That was perfect. Thank you.
And then we'll introduce Mary here in just a minute. But first, let's take care of some business first. We probably need to talk about the book club. This is the monthly meeting of the general membership meeting of the Readers and Writers Book Club. So we should have guests joining us on YouTube Live. Everyone has received an invitation. It's the members of the club and others. So we may have guests also joining us. But we'll be meeting again next month on July the 27th for this general membership meeting. And we'll also have an honored guest next month. We know who that is. We'll announce that so that at the end of the program, so that you'll be able to know and anticipate next month's guest. And also, members of Readers and Writers Book Club are eligible for door prizes. We have some really nice door prizes. And so when you received your invitation and your announcement to come to this meeting, you also, on that invitation, there's a little place that says enter door prizes. So you just click on that, enter your name, your email address, and you're automatically entered for the raffle. And so you'll be able to be eligible for the door prizes. And Jen Rodriguez handles that for us in the background, and we don't have to worry about it. And Jen will contact you and let you know that you're the winner. And we'll get your prize out to you right away. And you can enjoy some branded Readers and Writers Book Club products. And I think Jen's got another idea too on her mind as far as the door prize. And I think Jen's talking about an autographed copy of Mary Flint's first book. And so that would be nice also. So anyway, Mary Ann Paul and Valerie Winans, any other book club information, business that I should bring up, or anything that you'd like to talk about your books or what you're doing or anything before we meet our honored guest today?
I'm just excited to be here, Evan, and to say to all those listening out there that this is your time, Readers and Writers Book Club members, to you can be active on the internet asking questions and participate that way, this is your chance to participate in this worldwide meeting. And we really, really want participation. So if you're out there and you're viewing us, please know that we welcome your questions. We welcome your participation.
Thank you. That is for sure. And Marianne Paul, she's our co-host, but she's also watching things in the background. And so any questions, comments, or anything over on YouTube, well, she'll bring those to our attention. We'll have an opportunity to do it. But we really do welcome comments and suggestions. We say often that this is your time to talk. So we mean that as far as the Readers and Writers Book Club members or any friend that or visitor that's over on the YouTube. So I guess we should talk to Mary Flint. Let's see, I got one thing I need to do here before we get too far. We want to meet Mary. Now, Mary is, we used to say she was the America's most promising young writer. And then all of a sudden, Mary graduated from college and she's not a young writer anymore. She's a surefire, she's the creator of breathtaking worlds and heart-racing adventures. And so before the day is over, I suspect that everyone will understand a little bit better of what that is. So to begin, let's introduce Mary, but let's introduce Mary with her family. So if things are going right, I think you can see Mary with her family there. Mary, I'm pretty sure that I know you live in Texas. I know you're Portland, Texas, wherever that is, out in the sticks someplace. But everyone in your family, this is not your normal wear, is it? Y'all look like cowboys.
Well, that was the point.
Oh. So what was this occasion?
This was the first time like all of us siblings were kind of in the same location at the same time in quite a while. So we of course wanted to get a family portrait together. And since we live in Texas and we have a little farm, everybody kind of unanimously decided that the theme was going to be cowboy Western. So everybody brought flannel shirts and boots and hats. It was very fun.
So this was a family reunion, or what was the occasion?
I guess you could call it a family reunion. It wasn't like an official reunion. All of us just wanted to visit each other. So here in Texas was ground zero, the meeting point.
So I'll have to give a little disclaimer here, and that is that I know Mary Flint's father and mother. Mary and her family used to live in Alaska. Mary, I think you were born in Alaska.
Yes, I was.
And I don't think that, I think you were too young for me to have met you. Did we meet in Alaska, or have we met later?
I think we met later. We did, I was very young.
Yeah. Now, you moved back to Texas in what year?
2014. So I spent most of my life in Alaska.
Yeah. So this is the only picture I have of you in Alaska is this one. Now, this is a landmark near Anchorage. So Valerie, you've got Denali in the background up there. You have some Alaska roots. You've been here, you've been at the park, you was a host at the campground, and you love that mountain in the back. That's Denali. This is not Denali. And but I bet you, Mary Flint, I would almost venture to guess that maybe I bet you milkshakes or something, that Marianne Paul knows what mountain that is. Marianne, can you tell us, identify that mountain?
Sure, that's Flat Top.
Is that right?
Oh,
Mary
yeah.
Flint? Yeah, that's Flat Top. Yeah. So, and this is what here? This is what?
This is a family hike up Flat Top, a very, very long time ago. But
Now,
it was fun.
did you go all the way to the top?
I went almost all the way to the top. I think I got to the last stretch. If anybody's ever hiked it before, you know, there's like that little rocky area right before you get to the top, and I was done. I just sat on the rocks and enjoyed the view.
Marianne Paul, have you ever been on hiked up Flat Top?
I have, but I
Did
was
you go
very
clear to
young.
the
I was
top?
much younger. Huh?
Did you go clear to the top?
No, I don't think we got clear to go. We got high enough up, sorry, that we were going to do some rappelling.
Yeah.
But we got high enough up that I got vertigo and never had it in my life, but I got it because of the way you can see all the different angles when you get really close to Flat Top.
Yeah.
And when you're going up a bit. Yeah, and the angles really threw me. But yeah, that's what I went up to do, was rappel. I was young then.
Oh, well, I've been up there. Just I probably chickened out about where you did, Mary, because it gets pretty scary right there. But you know, these hikers, and not real professional, they go up and down there like crazy. These young people. So now, Mary, you're young enough, you'd go up there and you'd waltz up there and not even pay attention to it. Anything else that you'd like to tell us about your life in Alaska?
I don't miss the winters, but I miss the winters a little bit. I miss a little bit of the winters, but I definitely miss the summers. I miss all the trees and all the wildflowers. And Texas has its own beauty, but I don't think anywhere is as beautiful as Alaska is in summertime.
So you don't you don't miss the winters.
Yeah, I miss a little bit of the winters.
Oh,
I don't miss like the winters that seem to last forever, but I do miss snow.
So this is your house, not in Alaska.
No. This was the best December in Texas ever.
So you moved to Texas, and I've talked to your dad and mom. They were ready to get to the warm country and away from the ice and the snow. When I saw this picture, Mary, I have to tell you, I wish I could just sit down with your dad right now and laugh with him or at him or whatever. Yeah. So what happened here? What was this all about?
We just got a particularly cold front come through. Not quite as drastic as the one we just got earlier this year, but it was cold enough to actually snow for the first time since, I think, 2004. So it was fun. All of us kind of stayed up just waiting to see if it would actually snow. Because of course all the weather reports were like, well, it might snow, it might not. I was like, if it's one flake, I'm gonna see it. But we ended up actually getting a nice blanket of snow, which was very.
Well, Mary, I know that both Marianne Paul and Valerie Winans and folks other places are anxious to meet you because of you being a young writer and a darn good one. So when did you start writing? Tell us about your writing career. When did you begin? When did you decide I'm going to be a writer, or I'm going to write or publish? What? Tell us about that.
I've always liked kind of coming up with stories. I didn't write them down a lot, but I would just have stories in my head. And when I was a teenager, I had another family member start writing as well. And I really liked reading the stuff they wrote. And they kind of encouraged me to try, if I had a story, to try writing it down. So when I was 15, I opened up a Word document and I started writing one of the stories I had in my head. And before I knew it, I was in love with it. Just being able to invite other people into the worlds that I could see was just so fascinating and exciting for me to be able to do. So I finished the book when I was 16, almost 17. And it was after I published the first book that I decided that I wanted this to be my career. That it wasn't just going to be one story, it was going to be more and more. And I wanted to keep telling stories.
So, Mary, you fell in love with your story. I don't know that I've heard those exact terms by an author before. Mary Ann, Paul, and Valerie, have you heard that? Maybe you've experienced it yourself, and I just haven't heard it.
Well, I don't know that I fall in love with my story, because my stories are pretty scary. I do fall in love with my characters, though. So I understand that. I understand that beautifully. Yeah.
I understand it as well. I don't always start out in love with my story, but then at some point there's a passion for writing it. But one thing that I wonder about Mary Flint's story, she has not only just written a story, she has envisioned for the reader a whole new world, a whole different world. And so at what point, Mary, did you conceive of a world in levels that was so out of any scope that I would envision? I just think it's amazing and wonderful. Tell us about how you dreamed up that world of levels.
So originally, in the first kind of starting writing the book, I had a kind of an idea of what Randaria was going to be. That's the world. But nothing kind of, like, I couldn't really figure out how to describe what it was. And as we were driving somewhere one day, and there's this giant, I don't know if it was a steel plant, something being built. And as we were driving by, one of my parents remarked, like, wow, you could fit a whole city in there. And it clicked. I was like, what if you had a city inside of something? And so that inside city became an underground city. And the concept of levels kind of came from the idea of the different classes that would be present in the society. So which level you're on determines basically who you are for your entire life, with very, very limited ways to move. It was a fun, and then just having that scenario made exploring the characters much more exciting, I feel like.
Now, Valerie, this is the creation of a 15, 16-year-old.
Amazing,
Isn't
just
that?
amazing.
Yeah. You know, sometimes I've heard say of Mary, boy, for a young writer, she is really good. And I have
She's really good
them.
for any age
Yeah,
writer.
I have corrected them just like you did. for any age. You know, she's, I see these three award-winning authors here, Marianne Paul and Valerie Winans and Mary Flint. You're in good company there. And, you know, you're, I would say, equal with them.
She's way better than I'll ever hope to be, Evan.
That's what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah,
Not true. Not true.
I agree, Val.
You're both really honest. That I do know. Here's something that Valerie and Marianne, you can relate to this picture. And I want to show the picture of Mary with her first book when she held it the first time. And I'd like to have you talk to us, Mary. How did you feel holding that book that when you were 15, you created this world of levels and all kinds of stuff? And then here you got a book that's yours, got your name on it.
Honestly, it didn't feel real for a while. Opening the box and seeing not one, but like 10 copies of a book that's no longer just words on a Word document, but actually printed with a cover and like it's real. It's the kind of experience that's hard to describe. Like for me, it was like having part of my imagination physically available to hold. And it's something that you know, like you never thought would happen, but then here it is and you're holding it. And it's one of the best feelings ever.
When we first started publishing, Mary, all of our authors was within an hour of us for 2 hours, you know. And so when the books would come, they'd be delivered to our warehouse. And then the author would come and I had the privilege of handing him their first book and standing by and looking at that. And when I saw this picture of you holding your book, and I could just imagine that, and I would have loved to have been there and opened that case with you and handed you that book and shared that moment with you, because it's a magic moment. I've done it vicariously, well, maybe 1,000 times. So it's a good feeling. Valerie and Marianne, can you share that experience with Mary Flint?
It really is a very, very special moment. And it's an affirmation that for me, that maybe my hard work meant something, that it is in a form that can be shared with others.
Yeah, I remember feeling completely joyful. I mean, just my heart was full of joy. And I didn't believe it either at the same time. That, you know, that somebody thought well enough of my writing to publish this book that had, you know, like putting your baby out there, right? That's what it almost felt like. It almost felt like I had put something into the world, and I was a little scared about it at the same time as I was excited about it, because I didn't know how people would react. But it was one of the most, every time we published one, Evan, I have felt almost that same feeling. Yeah. The joy of seeing it and holding it is the accomplishment of coming to fruition, actually finishing it. That was a finishing of that book. That's hard for me to even put into words, that I actually got it done. And the hard work, yes, Val, and oh yeah, because we put hours and hours and hours into that. So yeah, it's a wonderful time, wonderful experience.
Well, Mary, you can, you know how they feel about it, then you've been there. So what I said about you can relate to them and you're a contemporary of those equal. You, in that, I'm sure that's very true.
I do have a question for you from Steve, and maybe you've answered it really, but Steve Levi asked, how do you come up with your ideas? But we just heard one example of how you did, right? Is there other ways you came up with your ideas?
I think, sometimes it's, seeing something and like a steel plant and it morphing into something I can fit into my world. A lot of times I get ideas when I'm listening to music. So whatever kind of scene or something I want to write, I'll turn on a piece of music that kind of has the mood I'm looking for. And oftentimes I'll just see little snatches of something. And so then I get to try and catch those little glimpses and expand upon them.
I thought of Steve when you was talking about it, Mary, of driving down the road with your family, because I've heard Steve tell that same story different, that he's always looking, around. That's kind of what he does, is he picks them up. But I was really interested in this idea of listening to music. Tell us more about that. Give us an example.
For an example, one of my short stories that I wrote, The Last Dance for Princess, I would see snatches of that story when I played or listened to a piece by Ravel. And so taking those I would describe it kind of as like, and I've heard it described by other authors as like a movie trailer. So you don't get the whole thing, you get little snatches here and there from all over the movie. But then taking each of those little snatches and piecing them together in the right order and filling in the gaps of what that story is.
Mary, you just gave Mary Ann Paul and Valerie and Steve Levi and anyone else that's listening and will listen that are authors a darn good idea that they may not have ever thought about before. Valerie, have you considered listening to music and say, I'm going to get my ideas from listening to this music?
I have never gotten ideas from music, but I'm about as musical as a three-toed woodpecker. I can't keep a beat, but I have gotten glimpses in dreams. I'll go to sleep thinking about a story and I'll wake up in the middle of the night and run out to the computer and start writing. So I guess we're all different. And Mary, I think, is just absolute genius. And of course, musical to the core. So I think it's just amazing.
So with you and I, Valerie, that you admitted you're a vagrant on music. Well, I'm a real popper on music. I might have mentioned earlier that I can't even play the radio on tune. We don't hear the same thing that Mary hears.
That's right.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I do listen to music when I write. I hadn't even thought about that, but that's what I do. I have an iPad. I still have an iPod, an old iPod, and it says writing because I created an entire list of things I write to the best. So when Mary talks about that, I go, I truly understand. In fact, I haven't listened to one of them recently, was called The Plains by George Winston. And I listened to that because it actually takes me to a whole nother world. And it gives me that feeling that I need. So I truly understand, but I used to have a musical background. So maybe that's why we relate.
You know what Mary's talking about then. You feel it.
I do exactly what she's talking about.
Amazing.
Yeah. Music is a huge part of when I'm writing. Always has been.
I wonder what, I hope that Steve Levi will comment on that. I'd like to know. How
I was
Steve-
just thinking Marianne Paul must listen to old backgrounds for Alfred Hitchcock movies or something. Right?
No, I don't. I listen to a lot of new age like Yanni and Enya and George Winston and Wyndham Hill. Those are the ones that I listen to that really help me. Yeah. No, I'm not listening to Hitchcock. All that would do is distract me.
Well, Mary, that's a thrill, obviously, to get your first book and to hold it. You know, we can relate to that. We know that. But I think for many authors, I think this is really the picture that brings the emotion. And that's the first book signing. And especially 2 times for authors. And I'm going to ask you if you've experienced that. The first time is when someone comes up and picks up your book, looks at it, and says, will you autograph it for me? I want to buy it in some terms. That's a thrill, I think, and I'd like to hear from you about that one. The second time is when you're at a book signing or an event and someone comes up and said, I bought that book earlier and I read it and it's wonderful. So tell us about those 2 if you've experienced. I know you've experienced the first one. If you've experienced the second one, let's hear about it. Go ahead.
Like I said, I have experienced the first one. But for this book signing here, most of the people that came in, it was kind of a slow day for the bookstore, but most of the people that came in were there because they wanted to come look at my book, which was fun. So it got her business, it got me business. But then having a couple people like come in for something else and then stopping and saying, oh, this looks cool. Like, sure, I'll try it. And I haven't had someone in person like show up and say like, oh, I've heard about, like, I have got one of these before. But I did have a couple people from this signing who, after they finished, they found my Facebook page and they either commented on one of my posts or sent me a message saying that they finished it and they loved it. A couple people left reviews on Amazon for me, which is always appreciated. So it's my favorite part, hearing what people liked about it.
So when they tell you that they like about it, do you ask them what they liked about it, or they're just telling you that? I didn't understand what you said, right?
Most of them have just been them reaching out to me and saying, I finished the book and I really loved it. So it's always appreciated.
Well, the question that I have about that, Mary, is that I guess that all authors want to be financially successful. They want their books to make money. But I suspect that the overriding thing more than money is that when someone says something nice about their book. Is that payday for you too, is when somebody says something good about your book?
It's definitely payday. I think even more than the money, like, sure, it's great to sell books, but I want to sell books because I want people to enjoy the story I created. So when they do enjoy that story, that makes everything worth it.
Now you did have a little local celebrity status too, didn't you? You had a nice review article in the local paper, and I like the headline of this. Isn't that cute? The right stuff. And I don't know if I've ever heard that before, but I hope that any author that's listening to this today picks up on that, because boy, an author with an imagination and posting on the internet and writing emails and all that stuff, if you can't find a headline and something to go with this, the right stuff, I don't think you're going to make it as a writer because you don't have any imagination. But isn't that nice? Did you have any response from the local people or anything about this? Tell us about that, Mary, about this article.
I haven't been recognized in the grocery store yet. But I did have a couple people like that I would see regularly say like, oh, I didn't know you wrote a book, but I saw it in the paper, so I picked up a copy. That was fun. Seeing that it reached at least some people. Yeah.
And is that also payday?
Yes.
Okay, well, Mary, let's meet some more of your family. Who's this guy?
This is Miss Maddie. She's our little pug puppy that we just got last year. She's trying to play the piano right now.
Yeah. Now, who can play the piano the best, you or the dog?
Well, I guess that would depend on if you like classical or contemporary more.
Oh, Mary, this is fun. You are so good. I would love to have a conversation with you all day. It's just nice. It's just fun. Mary Ann and Valerie, while I find another slide here, have you got any questions for or comments for Mary Flint?
Well,
Is that your only pet?
Oh,
No, you go ahead. Go ahead, Val.
no, go ahead. Go ahead, Mary Ann.
I was just going to ask, is that your only pet?
The only dog right now. But we do have chickens and guinea fowl, which are like, they're distant relatives of the peacocks. So they don't look like peacocks, but they don't look like chickens, but they're fun.
Well, that's high praise, Mary Flint, because was a famous writer, Flannery O'Connor, and she loved peacocks and she raised peacocks, and she's well known for her love of peacocks. So see, you'll be maybe well known for your love of prairie hens or whatever. Pugs, maybe things that start with P. Who knows?
So this is some of your chickens, Mary.
Yeah.
These are special chickens, or are they just chickens?
They're just chickens. My mom and my little brother really like chickens. So they're family pets. Most of them are, I would say, they're comfortable enough with people that you can pet them and pick them up. They're very sweet.
Yeah.
So are you going to do you have animals in your books?
I have mentions of a few animals. There's a dog in book 2 that we'll get to meet. And then in books later on, I think we'll meet more of the local animals a bit more than we have already.
This is an interesting one. I found this one, Mary. I'll make it a little bigger so everybody can see it.
This is Maddie meeting Yoshi the rooster for the first time. Supervised, of course.
So was that a friendly meeting, or was that adversarial, or was this a prop for the next story, or what is this?
It was friendly. This is one of the chickens that's really friendly. We can pet him. So we were just petting him, and Maddie wanted to say hello. So I think she just wanted to play with him. You know, it's a chicken. That's like she wanted to chase the chicken, but we weren't going to let her chase the chicken. But for the most part, it was a very friendly.
But these chickens, when I grew up on a farm country, Mary, and I've seen the pictures of your place there, we showed a minute ago, every animal on the farm had to pay for itself. And so there would be, for an example, there would be 2 turkeys on the farm. And one of them was named Thanksgiving and the other one was named Christmas. And the one, of course, named Thanksgiving never saw the next Christmas. And the one named Christmas did not celebrate New Year's, maybe in a sandwich someplace. So what about these chickens? Are any of these named Sunday dinner or anything like that? Or are they off limits for that?
No, the only thing we eat is their eggs. Not we're not tough enough. We love them too much. So they're very much just pets.
So they do, but they do produce. So they
Yes.
earn their keep.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So let's just talk about your books for just a second, Mary. This is a picture of your first book. Tell us about it.
So as we kind of talked about a little bit earlier, so the first book I wrote, where I created my own alien planet called Rendaria, where there's one city on this planet underground because the surface of the planet is no longer inhabitable. So have the city, and in the city there's levels, and each level has a different purpose for the city. So when you start at the top, you have all the important government officials. And as you work your way down, it goes in kind of levels of importance. You have science, you have medical, you have power and food. But the farther down you go, the poorer and more oppressed the people are. So at the center of the story, we have the first main character, Edric Solon, who's 17 and he's joined the military to help support his family. But he grew up in the middle, so he would have become an artist if he hadn't joined the military. So he's working for the government. And then the other main character, Andresha Kenway, who is 15, she's in rebellion against the government. So both these characters come together and they have to figure out if one of them is right or if maybe both sides are more nuanced than they seem, and kind of have to figure out what's real and what's a lie.
And this happened, Valerie and Mary Flint, this happened in the mind of a 15-year-old. So I have this question then for all 3 of you, and you all 3 have a different take on it, I think. The question is, as here's Mary's second book about to be released, we all know that the author that wrote the first book is not the same author that wrote the second book. And Mary's first book is almost flawless. Mary, tell us about this book, this book was not written by a 15-year-old. This book was written during the time that you were graduating from college. Is that right? Have you graduated now? I think you did.
Yes, I graduated.
Yeah, I wasn't positive of that, but I remembered it. And so, but this book was written during your college days. Is that right?
Yes.
So if you were going to review this book as an outsider, and you had already read the other one, what would the review of this book say that about the other book or about the author? You review this book for us.
I'd say even though it's shorter than the first book, but I feel like there's just as much that happens. And I think the characters are even more nuanced and alive in this book than they were in the first book, as we learn more about them and where they came from.
So you're saying that the author grew up and the characters aged and matured as well? Is that what you're saying?
I think a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Mary, you're not just a writer, and we talked about music. And the open for this meeting was the background music. You was playing it, and had a couple of visuals in there that you had. Let's just see and watch just a moment of your other talents that I am so jealous of, and Valerie probably will be too. Marianne, she'll relate to it, I guess. But let's just hear a little bit of this if we can. Mary, tell us about your music. By the way, I tried to do what you told me to do. While I was playing, I was listening and see if I could write a story. Valerie, I didn't come up with much.
I didn't either.
So tell us about your music. This is your professional quality music.
So I kind of grew up playing music. I started playing when I was 6 and continued all the way till now. And I think maybe the reason why I see things when I listen to music is because when I play a piece and I'm going to perform a piece, what I like to do is try and come up with a story for the piece to help me convey everything that is in the piece. This piece that we played pieces of kind of has its own story. It's the first movement of the Pathetique Sonata by Beethoven. And Beethoven never nicknamed any of his pieces. They were all named after he died. But it's called the Pathetique because he composed this piece when he was beginning to go deaf, and he was suicidal. It's theorized that he was suicidal from some of his writings to family members. So as I play this piece and as other people play this piece, we're trying to convey this feeling of a composer whose livelihood depends on hearing, and he's losing that. And imagining how it might feel to be Beethoven at this moment. And the piece goes through all sorts of different emotions. There's anger, there's sadness, there's happiness. I think that's part of why I love music so much, is kind of like you said earlier, so that's what Beethoven was going through when he was writing the piece, but everyone's going to see something or think of something differently when they hear it, because music is universal. So even if they may not see the same story I see, they might feel the same thing. And it just fascinates me how music with no words can touch souls so much, to the point of bringing people to tears or happiness. And it's just amazing to me.
Thank you, Mary. Mary, I have 2 more slides I'd like to talk with you about. This is one of them. This is you obviously at a musical event. Tell us what this is.
So this is the last in-person recital we had before the world had to shut down. So at the end of each semester, all of us piano students get to give a recital. It's part of our grade, actually, is we have to perform at least one of the pieces we learned that semester in a studio recital. So I have here my 2 piano professors and all of us piano students in the middle. So we always take a picture together at the end of the recital.
Mary, I can relate to that just a little bit, the opposite. When I was in grade school, we had to take music appreciation. You can relate to that, Valerie? Did you have music appreciation? Okay. And one of the things we had to do to get a grade is we had to sing a solo. And I told the teacher, I will not do that. And she said, Evan, if you don't, you won't get a grade. I flunked me. I don't care because I'm not going to sing. And she said, "What if you and I went out in the hall, would you sing a solo just for me?" And so she coerced me, or bribed me, or whatever. And her and I went out in the hall, and I had the most horrible experience of my entire life. And I sang a solo of some, I don't even remember what it was, for my music appreciation class, and I got a grade. So that's where, when I hear you talk about music and I see the emotion in your voice and in your face, it just, I would hunger to feel that same thing. It's amazing how you feel about that, and what you and other musicians do for us with your music. And then to know, Mary, that you have that same feeling, talent, skill, and ability to do that in writing. And the people who are in your genre and you read you, they will feel that same thing as if they were being played a concert. They'll have that same feeling. Mary, it's really nice to be here with you today. I just have one more slide. Valerie and Mary Ann, do you have any last question, comment to Mary before I put this other slide up? See if I can find it. Anything? Speak now or forever hold your peace, they say. Okay. All right. So this is the last one, and then we'll end our conversation with you, Mary, with this one. I love this photo. This is so good. And when I saw this picture, Mary, I actually thought of Mary Ann Paul and Valerie Winans, because they absolutely, they're nuts about dogs. And so here you are, and look at your face and look at the dog's face. And I don't know if this is a posed photograph or what it is, but you're both thinking about the same thing. It looks like This is a great photograph, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it was not a posed photo. It was candid. I guess we just happened to match facial expressions.
Yeah. So were you writing your next book or writing a post? Just tell us some exotic thing that you were doing right then. Don't just say something dumb. Please be something exotic and earth-shattering in that.
I was either working on my next book or I was writing a school paper. I don't remember which one it was. It might have been school paper, seeing the concentrated impression, intense concentration on my face. But Mr. Barkley down there, he's since passed on, but he was always a little writing buddy. And now Maddie's kind of stepped in to keep his spot. So I miss him, but he was always a very good writing buddy to have.
Yeah. Mary, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
This has been a wonderful, wonderful experience to be here and to enjoy being in the presence of, presence of angels, because you are, and in the presence of talent. And, I have heard it said many times that God saved the best for last. And I think that all of us here today will verify and testify that you're the best.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here. Okay, so that we'll just say that ends our meeting for today and our conversation. We'll see you next month, July the 27th, for the general membership meeting worldwide of Readers and Writers Book Club. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you.